So during this time that we're all stuck in our houses, I've become very, very fond of exercises that you can actually do from your bed that don't require you to have a lot of space, that you can do supine. So here is this. For this, we're just going to learn basic back breathing, kidney breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. And we're going to learn to engage our transverse abdominals, which is something we don't do enough of. Yeah, and it's pretty simple. You can do it in bed. You might want a blanket or a towel. And what we'll do is we'll roll the blanket up, make a tight roll with it. This is how I like to start most of my yoga classes too. So make a tight roll with your blanket or your towel, and then you'll lay it in the center of your mat. Now you can either sit in front of it or you can be on top of it, whatever works best for you. Today I'm either one. So if the roll is thicker, you might want to get your tailbone on the roll. So this roll is pretty thick. If you have a thinner roll, you can have your tail hanging off of the roll. So we're just going to start with the legs. I'm about inner hips width apart. The arms can be out at your sides. Just start by feeling your breath. So you'll just feel the natural breath expanding the body. And as you exhale, you'll feel the natural breath leaving the body. You'll feel the abdominals dropping down. And there's nothing you're trying to control here. You're just sensing into the natural breath and movement of breath through the body. You're welcome to open your mouth to exhale or keep it closed, whatever works for you. And then we'll start to sense into the feet. So feel where the feet connect to the floor, and you can roll the toes up, lift up all 10 toes. You can roll the toes back down, lift up the heels. Now see if you can bring the inner edges of the feet together, hug the inner ankles together, so that you can find this kind of connection through the midline of the body. So it goes all the way up through the ankles, through the inner knees, through the inner thighs, all the way up through the pelvic floor, up into the diaphragm. Continue breathing like that. Lifting and lowering the heels, trying to articulate through the feet. Even lifting up the pinky sides of the toes. And then you'll place your fingers on your hip points, and you'll feel for those bones, those ASIS. And then you'll begin to move the pelvis through north and south tilts. So you can tilt the pubic bone toward your face. You'll feel the tailbone reaching long, and you'll feel the lumbar spine sort of flatten out. And then when you exhale, you'll reach the pubic bone away from your face. You'll see how my lumbar spine kind of comes to a natural curve here. We'll do this a few more times so you can feel the movement through the pelvis and through the lumbar spine. Notice how as you move the pelvis, you can feel that movement echoing all the way up through your spine, right? It's not just in the pelvis, but it has an impact through the entire spine. And then trying to find a place that's neither north nor south, or neither north nor south, but somewhere in the middle. And place your hands around the top ribs. You can place the thumbs around the bottom ribs, and fingers around the top ribs. Now, as you inhale, you can expand laterally. Allow the ribs to expand out into the hands. As you exhale, you're going to draw the ribs toward one another. And as you do that, you'll feel the back ribs connecting into your blanket roll. This is why we use the blanket roll, because it's easier to feel it like this, I think. Plus, it just feels good on the upper back. Inhale to expand laterally. Move the ribs out to the sides without puffing up the front of the body. Yes, try to keep it lateral and posterior in the back. As you exhale, ribs draw toward one another. And do that a couple more times. See if you can really feel the back ribs expanding out and expanding laterally. Now we're going to start to add on to it. So as you expand through those back ribs, you're going to imagine that the two front ribs are like tributaries of a river, right? So as you exhale, you're going to bring the tributaries of the river in. You're going to knit the ribs toward one another as though the two tributaries meet and they flow into the same river. And they move all the way out through the pelvic floor, yeah? So again, inhaling into the side and back ribs. Exhaling, ribs knit in like tributaries toward one another. Breath moves all the way out through the pelvic floor. You can do that a couple more times before we add on. Inhale, posterior lateral, back ribs expand against the blanket roll. Exhaling, ribs draw toward one another, knit in. Breath moves all the way out through the pelvic floor. You feel the pelvic floor drawing in and up with the end of the exhale. That's how you know you've done a complete exhale, when you feel that pelvic floor lifting up. Yeah? Now we're going to add on to that. With the exhale, everything as you've been doing, but now draw the sides of the waist in as well. So that is your transverse. Sides of the waist, corset in as well. Top ribs knit in. Press through the pelvic floor. Yes. Breath moves all the way out. So you've got a few different things happening at the same time. You've got the posterior lateral breath, right? The breath enters into the back and side ribs. You get wider and fuller on the inhale. And as you exhale, so the ribs knit in, you find that diaphragm. The belly draws back because you're pressing the air all the way out through the pelvic floor. The sides of the waist draw in, so you're engaging the transverse abdominals. And all of this together, working together, is called your co-contraction. So just this act of breathing and this way of breathing is engaging your core. So throughout any abdominal exercises, we want to maintain this breathing pattern and this breathing engagement. And it is a lot of work, yeah? When you practice it, it starts to become second nature. It gets easier and easier. But in the beginning, just this is a ton of work. So maintaining that co-contraction. You're going to shift the weight into the right foot and just float the left foot off the mat. You're going to release the left foot down. Try not to let the pelvis move out. Inhale, posterior lateral breath. Exhale and draw the ribs in, knit them toward one another, and float the right leg off the mat. Slowly release the foot back down. Again, inhaling, side and back ribs expand. Exhaling, co-contract. Float that leg up. Trying to differentiate from the hip sockets. Then we're going to make it a little bit harder, yes? Once you're ready, you can float the legs up to 90, so tabletop position. You're going to inhale here, posterior lateral. It gets harder here, yes? Exhaling, knit the ribs in. Release that right heel down. Keep the pelvis super stable and float the leg back up. Again, exhaling, left heel reaches down. Reach through the inseam of the left leg, left thigh, and continue. So nothing else moves, yes? You stay completely stable. You keep using that breath to keep the co-contraction. See if you can even inhale and keep that co-contraction. Oh my, yes. Keep knitting those ribs together. Keep pulling the sides of the waist in. And we'll do 3, 2, and 1. Good. And then release back down. Come off of your blanket roll. And we'll meet at another video for another ab exercise. That's one of my favorites. Thank you.